کنفرانس در کنگره آمریکا. محکومیت نقض حقوق بشر و تروریسم و جنگ افروزی رژیم آخوندی.
Our discussion today is set against the backdrop of growing concern over Iran's role in the Middle East and beyond. The surge in human rights violations within Iran, its accelerating nuclear ambitions, and its influential role in regional conflicts presents a complex triad of challenges that demand our urgent attention and decisive action. Iran's influence in the Middle East, particularly through its support of proxy groups and involvement in countries like Syria, Yemen, Lebanon, and the Gaza Strip, has been a central figure in ongoing conflicts. This discussion will aim to unravel the multifaceted nature of Iran's involvement and its implications for regional stability. Why has Iran announced over 220 executions since October 7th? This alarming and growing number of executions, including those of minors and dissidents, speaks volumes about the internal repression and human rights situation in Iran. We seek to understand the motives behind these actions and the message the Iranian regime is sending to its citizens and the world. The international community has observed with concern the uptick in Iran's external aggressive maneuvers. Understanding the rationale behind these actions is crucial in developing effective counter-strategies and in mitigating the threat posed by these activities. The Iranian regime is conducting crimes at home and abroad. Ebrahim Raisi has been widely condemned by numerous human rights organizations and is the subject of various House resolutions with strong bipartisan support from members of Congress. He was a member of the Death Commission responsible for the execution of political prisoners during the 1988 massacre and the killing of hundreds of protesters in 2022. 90% of those massacred in 1988 were members of Iran's main opposition, the MEK. In response, Tehran's regime has initiated legal theatrics and summoned 104 members of the MEK. This move by a criminal regime indicates their fear of the MEK as an existential threat. There is no rule of law in Iran. Their inhumane laws serve the supreme leader, who envisions nothing but violence and terror. We all know this legal move by Tehran's regime against the MEK is a precursor to their nefarious acts of violence and terror in Europe. To confront it, we must adopt a firm policy in dealing with the head of the snake in Tehran.
Hello, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you. Today, I stand before you as a former political prisoner who has been in prison for 7 years and has seen the horrors of what takes place in the mullahs' prisons, which includes torture, massacre, and horrific crimes against humanity. I came as a witness to the crimes of the Iranian regime and discussed the dire situation of human rights in Iran. But I am also here to commend bipartisan members of Congress who have advocated for America's core values and commitments as a nation devoted to human rights and democratic principles. Ebrahim Raisi, regime's president, is a mass murderer and responsible for the 1988 massacre of political prisoners, including all of my former cellmates. Ladies and gentlemen, the arrests, tortures, executions, and forced disappearances in Iran are not isolated incidents, but part of a systematic pattern of abuse and repression that the Iranian regime has perpetuated for decades. Our community leaders and members of Congress today are not just declaring a statement of solidarity with the Iranian people. Together, we call for action. This is a recognition that the time has come to place human rights at the center of our policy towards Iran. The time has come to recognize the resistance of Iranian nation as the alternative to this regime. We believe the Iranian regime, Ali Khamenei, and the notorious IRGC are the head of the snake, who have not only inflicted terror and repression within Iran's borders, but also has exported its extremist ideology and tactics beyond its boundaries. I am reminded of the bipartisan House Resolution 100 with absolute majority that warned us about the Iranian regime's role in the region, which has destabilizing effect on the entire region. And today, we see how it poses a significant threat to global security. As member of the Iranian-American community, I argued that by targeting the head of the snake, we will address the root cause of this instability and terror. We must support the Iranian people in their struggle against a regime that has consistently shown blatant disregard for human life and basic human dignity. The ongoing protests are not mere expressions of dissent of Iran. They are a clarion call for popular revolution, a rejection of both monarchic dictatorship and religious tyranny. By standing with the Iranian people, America is not only upholding its values, but also contributing to the stability and security of the Middle East. Thank you all for the time given to me.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Firuz Daneshgeri, and I stand today before you not as a surgeon scientist, as an academician or an executive entrepreneur, but as really a living testament to the massive human rights violations that carries on by Tehran regime. As you heard from the members of the Congress, everyone knows that this regime is the head of the snake. As a former political prisoner, very much like my friend Mina, I was arrested and tortured in the notorious Evin prison, so we share some common stories. And I have mounted the countless classmates. Nearly half of my classmates at Tehran University have been executed or missed in action. Half of my classmates in the country where less than 10% of people get the opportunity to go to university were executed or missed. So that is why, very much like the Congressman Sherman, I have been with the resistance for the past 45 years. That's why I call the regime in Tehran evil, because of the documented horrors of 1988 massacre. Many of my classmates during the massacre, they lost their lives, which is one of the darkest parts of history in Iran. Over 30,000 political prisoners, majority of them under the age of 30. They were hung, although many of them, or most of them, had received their sentences or completed their sentences. The majority of those were executed were the members and supporters of Mujahideen Khalq Iran, MEK. And this is well documented by Amnesty International and other international organizations. Under the fatwa, or the order that issued by Khamenei, a crime against humanity. Absolutely well documented with any type of evidence. This regime has carried out hundreds of thousands of attacks by its direct forces, by its proxy forces outside its borders, and this is not a secret for anyone in this audience. We must prevent Ebrahim Raisi, the murderer, the person who is accused of the crime against humanity, that portrays himself as a president in the national stage. He needs to be arrested. He needs to be brought to justice. Let me tell you here, ladies and gentlemen, I have a handful of my classmates from Tehran University School of Medicine who escaped Iran. They're in Albania, they're in Ashraf. I was in Ashraf 2 weeks ago. If the regime is pretending that these people are terrorists, I'm one of that group. I'm a terrorist. The path to peace and stability in the region is very, very clear. It starts and ends in Tehran. The head of the snake is in Tehran, ladies and gentlemen. The international community must stand in solidarity with the Iranian people's quest for a democratic, secular, and non-nuclear Republic of Iran. The international community must recognize the right of us as Iranian people to overthrow this regime and support our call for regime change. Enough is enough. This regime change needs to be mandated and needs to be carried out by policymakers in this country. We've had 45 years of terrors, tyranny, killing, and export of terrorism. Now is the time for action. Our silence, our giving them the bribes, our appeasement with them, our not enforcing the sanction policies only emboldens us and empowers this tyrannic regime. We must amplify the voices of Iranian people and to be the beacon of hope in their fight for freedom. Iranian people are ready to throw this regime to the garbage of the history, and they will do that, and we only need your support by not appeasing this regime. Thank you very much.